Hello, in this video we're going to learn about graphing equations with two variables. The graph of an equation with two variables is all the points whose coordinates are solutions of the equation. So yesterday in class we were working on something like this, where we're given an equation and then we pick values for x, plug them into the equation, and then figure out what y would be. And so in this case we figured out that when x is negative 2, y is 0. When x is negative 1, y is 1, and so on. So now we're going to use the coordinates there to put them on a graph. So given this xy coordinate grid, notice I've labeled the x, I've labeled the y. The first digit is always the x. Okay, so negative 2. The first digit always tells us where to go on this line on the x-axis. We always start at 0, 0, so when it says negative 2, that means we go 2 to the left. If it was positive 2, we would go 2 to the right. Now the second number tells us whether we're going to go up or down. So if I was going to graph negative 2 comma 0, I would go 2 left and then 0 up or down. So just keep it on the line right here. Now if I'm going to graph, let me make that green actually, negative 2, 0. Alright. Now if I was going to graph negative 1, 1, I would go 1 left, negative 1, and then up 1, positive. Notice that positive is right and up, negative is down and left. So we can keep graphing this. 0 means I'm not going left or right. I just go, I stay right here, and then the 2 tells me to go up 2. And then 1 comma 3 is right 1 up 3. Now you might be tempted just to leave those dots there because those are the points where the coordinates are solutions of the equation. The reason we only choose integers like negative 2, negative 1, 0, and 1, that's just for quickness and easiness. Technically, you could also use decimals here. You could use like 1/2. So if x is 1/2, then y equals 1/2 plus 2, and that would equal 2.5. So when x is 1/2, y is 2.5. So you could graph that, and that would be right here. Okay, so keep in mind that although we're graphing specific points and usually using integers to make it easier on ourselves, everything in between also works. And so what you have to do when you're graphing is connect those with a line. So we'll do that right now. So we're connecting that and we're going through. So keep in mind the line should have arrows on the ends to show that it goes on forever and ever. Let's make that green. There we go. So it's got arrows on the ends to show that it goes on forever, and the line connects. So even things like 1/3 would work, or 0.56, but we just don't want to figure those out because that's going to be too time consuming. Alright, let's try another example here. Let's say you make $10 an hour working at Starbucks. Write an equation that gives the amount of money you earn based on the number of hours you work, and then graph it. Okay, so we're not always graphing x's and y's. The whole purpose of graphing is to solve problems or to give a visual representation of something to make it easy to figure out or easy to read or easy to understand. So in this case we're talking about money in hours. So we might start off by coming up with some variables here. So we could say h equals hours worked, and we could say that m equals money earned. So now we have to come up with an equation. Well, to figure out how much money you're going to earn, you're just going to multiply the number of hours you work by $10, right? So $10 an hour. And so it makes sense that if you work for 1 hour, you make $10. And if you work for 2 hours, you make $20, and so on. Alright, so in this case, when you make your graph, let me just pull one out here. It's probably going to be smarter, instead of labeling your graph 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, since we're dealing with money in terms of tens, you might think about changing the scale on the y-axis. So in this case, we're dealing with hours and money rather than x and y. And so you need to label it that way. And so the hours are 2, 4, 6, and so on. Keep in mind we don't need to use negative here because you can't work for negative hours. You can't earn negative money. So I'm just going to make this 10, 20, 30, and so on. Alright. So when you work for 1 hour, you make 10. 2 hours, you make 20. 3 hours, you make 30. 4 hours, you make 40, and so on. You get the idea. And so this is how we can graph it. Oops, there we go. And if you work for 0 hours, you get 0 money. Now in this case, it would be true to not have the arrow going to the left, but only to the right, because like I said, you're not going to be making negative money. But if you worked for 1,000 hours, you would get $10,000. So you have to show the arrow here to show that it keeps going. And that is how you graph on a coordinate grid. Thanks for watching.